Hi there, it's Sally from Rickety Snippets here, and I am continuing to work into my Dragon Junk journal, and today I'm going to create a waterfall. And as always, I'm using the Gold Edition Dragon Junk Journal kit, and that's in the Rickety Snippets shop, and I'll stick a link to that below if you want to follow along. So we've got lots of lovely purpley dragons and papers to work with today, and I'm going to work on 2 pages that I marked somehow but seem to have lost. Oh, there we are. That one. These 2. So I'm going to create a waterfall on this side, and then on this side I'm going to use one of the pockets from the kit. So let's have a look at what we've got. So I've got some fussy cuts and things and some journaling cards to go in some of the pockets that we're going to create. And move all those over. And then these papers. So I'm going to use these for the waterfall itself, or this piece of paper for the waterfall itself, and I've marked it out on the back. So each of these squares is 8.5 centimetres square, and it might look slightly different if you are using US letter paper. So I've printed onto A4 paper here, and I've selected shrink to fit on the printer. But if you're working on US letter paper, you probably have a bit extra to work with. So yeah, 6 8.5 centimetre squares, and then I've just ruled off another little bit there that we're going to use, and then we're going to cut this bit off, but we're going to save that because we're also going to use it. So I'll start by cutting that up. So I've trimmed off the bits that we don't want, so these are the bits that we want now. So you have the 6 squares and then this little bit on the end, and then I'm just going to cut along these 2 lines here. So what we then have are 3 pieces that look like this. So 2 squares and a little bit on the edge, and then this piece which we're going to use in a bit. So I'm going to grab a ruler and something to score with, and I'm going to score each of these lines. Okay, so then what you've got, so I folded these inwards, so those 2 back to back, and then this little bit is going to fold that way, okay, and then into this side, so the side with the little flap on it, I'm going to punch a little notch like that, and I'm going to do that for each of those. Yeah, and then I'm going to grab that piece that we cut off, and I'm going to stick that inside there like that, so you don't have any white showing through the notch on that. So I'm just going to do that by putting a bit of glue along the edge of the pocket like that, and then a bit of glue in here as well. And stick that down. Like that. And then I'm just going to cut that bit off. And then so I'm going to do the same for each of these. There we are, and then before I stick them together, I'm actually just going to put some ink around all of the edges. There we are, so I've inked all the edges, gives it a bit of definition. I've also folded it and inked along there as well. I haven't done that one because I couldn't decide whether I wanted to or not, so I just left it for the time being. So let's grab the journal, and we're just going to line them up on the page. So I've got this, where's this pocket? is actually going to go on that page there. So I think I want the waterfall fairly centrally on this page. Perhaps I'll stick this one in. Yeah, I think it helps to see where that's sitting so that we can get a bit of balance on the other side. I was going to put just a couple of journaling cards in there. So we've got a dragon trying to work out how to get out of his shell there, and some treasure chests on this one. So I'm just going to put those in there. Not sure how I want those yet, but like that for the minute. And then so this one, so you could have your waterfall off to one side or centrally, and I think I want it centrally because it'll balance out this one being, you know, very much kind of on the side of the page. So I'm going to decide how I want these. Perhaps that one at the top. I like it like that. Okay, so I need first of all to put some glue on these, stick them together. So I'm just going to put some glue along that side and along the top there. Stick that down, and I'll do the same for the other pockets. Okay, so I want to place these fairly centrally. So I'm going to have one over the other. So starting the bottom one goes underneath. And you put the next one on top of that, and then the final one on top of that. Oh, they're all in different order again. I do quite like that though. So did that. And then I'm going to shift it up a bit because I want a little bit of space at the bottom here. Perhaps like that. So I think I'm actually going to stick that top one down first. So just some glue over that flap that you've created. Stick that at the top of the page. Like that. That is not helpful. This oh, so this was the hidden paper clip, or the stack of hidden paper clips that we made last week. So three hidden paper clips. I'm just going to take that off for a while because it's a bit bulky. If you didn't see that video and you'd like to make one, I'll stick a link to it on the screen. Okay, so that's better. It's a bit flatter to work on. So we've got our first one, which is not straight. And then underneath, so, oh, apologies if you can hear my cat. She's in a cardboard box and it just sounds a bit like a drum. You might also be able to hear the road being dug up, which seems to happen endlessly at the moment. So it's quite noisy here at the moment. Right, okay, so I think kind of like that. So stick that one down. And then the challenge is really to get them spaced fairly evenly. You can measure all this if you want to, but I'm quite happy really if it's a little bit off. There's only 3 of them. I think if you had more, perhaps it's more important maybe to have them more equal, but I think they're fine. So now we want something to keep the whole thing closed. So we'll work on that in a minute. First of all, I'm going to put some little cards inside these pockets. So we've got some square cards, so things like Heart of a Dragon, Dragon Master, and then I've got this kind of receipt as well, Moonfire on the top, and I'm going to put some tabs on them, which I haven't inked actually, so I'm just going to put a bit of ink on those. There we are, so I've inked them. So these are just some tabs from the kit, so they look a little bit like cotton spools or something, and then you just fold them in half that way, and then that gives you a little space to write something or stick a label over it or something if you want to. And then I'm just going to put some glue on one of the sides, so right up to the fold that I've made, and then I'm going to put that on the card, and then I'm going to put some glue on the other side. Did I say ink earlier? I didn't mean glue, if I did. And then just close that over, so you've got a little bit stuck onto the edge there and a bit sticking out, which will be sticking out of our pocket. I'll just put a little bit of very pale ink on the back there, so you can use that for journaling. And then so I'm going to do the same for these ones. So these ones have got a little space here to write on, so you want those bits to be at the front. There we are, so we can stick those in our pockets, and then we've got this tag hanging out so that we can pull them in and out. Yeah, so that's the kind of waterfall, and of course you could have as many as you like there, as many as you can fit in really, and I think that's quite a nice number for this one, because I'm going to create a bit of a kind of closure for it over the top. So I'm going to use this paper for that, and a little bit of this again, there's the scaly one. So let's grab my cutter again. I quite like this flower bit on this paper, so I'm going to include that. So I'm just going to cut that bit off, and then here as well. So we want it reasonably wide. So what is that? That's like uh, 4.5 centimeters. So for this piece, I want it just slightly wider than this one. So I'm just going to do that by eye. So probably about here. So it's probably about 0.5 centimetre or something wider either side. So a full centimetre in all. And cut that up. And then I'm going to stick those together, but I'm going to only stick it top and bottom so that this piece becomes kind of like a belly band. So nice bit of glue either end, so I want quite a bit. Make sure it's really well stuck. And then I'm just going to stick that down. A bit wonky. There we are. And just cut that bit off. And then I'm going to stick that to the top of the page. So again, quite a big strip of glue. And then line it up with the top of the page. And we want it centrally, so it's sitting centrally on those pockets. Yeah, so let that dry a little bit. And then down here, I'm going to create a kind of mini pocket for this to sit in. So I've got like this purple bit, so I'm going to cut that out. And then on the top, so I'm going to punch a notch in the middle. Like that. And then I'm going to use my corner rounder. And I'm on the largest one. I'm just going to take off the edges or the corners like that. If you haven't got any of these punches, you can just make a wavy line if you want to, or you can just have it straight. You don't have to have the waviness. So I'm then going to stick it. Take that out again for a little bit. Can't now. So I only want to stick it right on the very edges. Actually, I'll cut it, I think, first. So I think this would have been easier if I hadn't stuck that down first. So a note for you when you're doing it. I'll stick that down later. So I'm just going to... Oh, well, it's come off anyway. Right. So I'm going to line that up so that the pocket is almost touching that last pocket, that bottom pocket on the waterfall. And then I'm just going to snip at the edge of the page. So this is going to be a really kind of shallow pocket like that. And then I'm just going to put glue on the very edge. And I'm not putting it on the curve there, so it's just on that straight edge. And then on the bottom. There we are, so stick that down. And then I'll decorate that. So I've got some fussy cuts things. I've got these wax seals, which I really like. I think I'm going to use one of those on there. So I haven't used the punch to cut that out. I've just cut around the edges because I think because they're wax seals, they've got that, it makes them a bit more kind of organic. And big. I'll stick a number on there as well. Nice. Ooh, stuck fast. I wanted to put that on the top. There. I'm just putting the number slightly under the wax seal. There we are. And then so I'll put this back on again. And I'll let that dry a bit before we sort out what's going to happen down here at the bottom. It's actually on the page. Let's see. We are. And so that is going to tuck into there. I think I might put a fussy cut on there too. Got some dragons, some flowers. We've already got flowers, so I have one of the dragons on there. Oh, he goes really well. Some of him. So you can sit on top of those. The dragon, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so he's kind of hanging over a little bit. Gives that nice bit of dimension there. Okay, right, I wonder if that's stuck enough. It's okay. So we want that slightly shorter. And then it should just tuck in there. So you could take like round the corners of that as well. And then it should just tuck into the pocket. Like that. Still a little bit long, I think. Just being awkward. I know, that's okay. Here we are. So that kind of holds that then in place. And then you can put something else again in that pocket. So we could have another little seat in there, and that kind of helps hold it again. And this was a belly band, so we could have something actually tucked behind there as well. A couple of things, a little ashen wing card there. So you could have a couple, play about with that until you get something you like. So there we are, we've got our kind of plainer page on this side, balancing out all that's going on this page with our lovely busy waterfall. So I hope you have fun with this. You can obviously use any papers you like, and create as many pockets as you like, and all with this closure, which really helps kind of keep it all contained. So next week I'm going to continue working into the journal. I don't think I've decided what I'm going to do yet, so I'll have a think about it, and once that video's up I'll put a link to it on the screen. And so I'll see you next time. Bye for now.